Okay, I've got a weird one for you this week. It's about future dangers. Now, normally I'm about very actionable today, right now things, and but today I'm going to talk about things that might be a problem in the future. However, think about it, now is the time to be taking precautions with those things. Hi, this is Larry Kaye with ShadowAnyone.com and the creator of the Investigator's Ultimate Guide series, which is premium private investigator training from someone who's been there and done that. I'm going to start out by giving two examples in the past of things that were dangerous, that are dangerous now, but people didn't really foresee. Number one is Social Security numbers. Now, I will tell you that for decades, since I was literally a child, I've always been fascinated by private investigator type stuff, investigations, things like that. Even when I didn't know some of the terms or things like that, fascinated by it. I knew as a child, and I mean, I'm talking like in the 70s, about how Social Security numbers could be used, how they, back then especially, related to different things. The prefix number indicated what state it was issued from. Really, just here in the 21st century, that's when that has changed. But back then, and well into the 20th century, you could look at a Social Security number and tell a lot about the person. So while that's been fixed now, that was a danger back then that nobody was really thinking about, and it always struck me as odd. I'll give you two good examples. When I went into the service, Social Security numbers were put on the address on the outside of the envelope to new recruits in boot camp. So you'd get something, and it would have the recruit's name, the Social Security number, and then the address there for the Fleet Post Office, for the Navy, for example. Social Security number is right on the outside of the envelope. Really weird. And so if you wanted to get mail from your girlfriend, if you wanted to get mail from friends of people you went to high school with, you had to give them your Social Security number. Super weird to me even back then. Now it's unthinkable, but it's just an example of people weren't prepared for and weren't thinking about the future dangers of compromising a Social Security number. Another example, and I have never understood this either, date of birth. Birthdays strike me as if you're an investigator, you understand how that should really be kind of a confidential piece of information. With a Social Security number, you can type into a database very easily and bring up the individual. Well, even if you don't have a Social Security number, their name and date of birth is pretty much just as unique as a Social Security number, and that will bring them up in many, many databases. I don't know why people are so casual about their birthdays, why they post it online, why they call into radio contests. I've never understood that. Again, even as a child, I didn't understand that. It's a unique identifier. People did not foresee the future dangers of that type of thing. So let's talk about some things right now that people are casual about but will be a problem in the future. One thing in particular that I see is people are very casual about keys to their house, that they might have them online. They might be showing like an everyday carry, what I carry with me every day. And they'll throw their car keys out onto the desk or have a close-up. So if a bad guy sees the key laying out there, he can freeze frame and replicate that key pretty much at his own home, or take those measurements to a locksmith at the very worst, and make a duplicate key. Now, of course, now it's just a matter of showing up at that person's house, and you have unfettered access. So people are too casual about putting their keys online. That may seem like a very narrow, thin example, but let me tell you right now, that's a pretty significant risk if you've fallen into that. Another thing that is a future problem, and it's really kind of a today problem people are not even aware of, is the facial recognition and posting pictures online and things like that. Things that they thought were innocuous, harmless years ago or even last year. These are the type of things that are being cataloged and database stored forever. And you cannot get that information back. You can't unindex your face once it's been indexed in a database. Again, you don't have to go back too many decades to where there were the Polaroid Instamatic cameras, and people were very casual in certain environments, maybe in a bachelor party, taking pictures because nobody would ever see them. You didn't have to. You may not remember. You had to actually used to take film to a place to get it developed, and anybody who developed it saw what your photos were. When the Instamatic came out, this was a boon to people who wanted to take private photos because nobody could see what they were taking photos of. But yet, these photos tend to surface these days. There are certain people tend to post them online as being funny, or do you remember when, and now boom, they're online. A caution, of course, any kind of photos you're taking, be careful about that, be commonsensical about that. But the facial recognition in particular takes someone who was an anonymous nobody back when the photo was taken and immediately pegs that picture to them forever. Now here's the one that really is for the future. Nobody's really talking about it, nobody's thinking about it. Voice recognition. There are people that are working hard to get voice recognition to be easy and common and standard. So if you're posting anything online, a lot of people do videos online, but they're private people, rightly so, don't want to show their face, so they just use screenshots or a presentation slides over top of their voice narrating it, thinking that this will provide them with a certain level of privacy. But I'm telling you, what are we, 18 months, 2 years or less, maybe a little bit more out from having that voice recognition technology be so common and so easy to use that all of those things that people thought were either anonymous or private-ish, are going to be cataloged, databased, and kept forever. If you know of any future things that you see on the horizon that are going to be a problem that people aren't thinking about now, please drop them in the comments so that we can all have a little heads up on it. I know that you probably, if you watch this regularly, that you might be someone who tends to put things in the comments, and there are so many valuable conversations and additions to the conversation that happen there. So drop your ideas into the comments. We can all learn from each other. In the meantime, this is Larry Kaye with ShadowAnyone.com. Remember, do the right thing, even if it's the hard thing.